Welcome to the Lyrically Speaking podcast, where we dissect, dig deep, and discover the lyrics to some of the most popular songs ever written. We ask, what are they really telling us? What can we learn? Or unlearn in some cases. I'm Louise.
And I'm Oma.
And here on the Lyrically Speaking podcast, we share our thoughts on how the broader themes from these songs relate to our real everyday lives. So if you love music, if you enjoy critical thinking and reflecting on life's bigger themes while having a laugh with friends, then this is the place for you.
And so this song was released in 2002. So we're doing another naughty song. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I was younger, I loved this song. I actually loved it. It was fun. It was lighthearted. It was catchy.
Yeah, me too.
So
it was such a good song.
Such
though.
a
Come
lovely
on.
little song. It was such a lovely little song. But as most of these lovely little songs go, when you break it down, there's always something that's a little bit problematic. Now, the song was released in 2002, as I said. It hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, so it did really well.
That's really good.
Top 10 on the international charts, and it actually launched this young person into stardom. The song actually is based on an original song, which was by the hip-hop artist Biz Markie. So now, for those old hip hop heads, I'm giving it away. He released a song in 1989, and that's what this song is a cover of. So the song is.
So it's a cover.
It's a cover. The hook is covering an original hip hop song. So the song that we're talking about is "Just a Friend" by Mario. So the reason why I wanted to put about it's actually from Biz Markie, because in Biz Markie's version, to be fair, I almost prefer Biz Markie's version in a way. In Biz Markie's version, he's saying that she says he's just a friend. So Biz Markie was kind of known as like the comedic hip hop artist. And so he has this funny line where he's trying to attract a female and he thinks she's got a man. And she's giving him all the signals, but she's saying, this guy is just my friend. So Biz Markie's got this whole joke thing where he's like, she's got what I need, but she says he's just a friend, which I think makes sense. It's funny. She says he's just a friend. And so the whole thing was really funny, and it was a hit song. Mario's version spins that on his head, and Mario is saying in his hook, you've got what I need, but you say I'm just a friend. So let's get into these lyrics and let's see where we go. So this 15-year-old young man
15.
He was 15, yeah. So Mario was actually 15 years old when he released this track. He was only 15.
This is too young. Was he 15 in the video?
In the video,
I would never have
15
known.
years old. So there's a topic
We've touched on
this about child stars, but this is the thing that when we were teens coming up, we didn't quite consider the youth of people and some of the topics that are being covered. The overarching theme of this song is one of, you might say, unrequited love. He is chasing after a lady, but this lady, while he's chasing her, the video alluded to that because he's following her almost in a Michael Jackson, The Way You Make Me Feel style. He's chasing after this lady.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she's pushing him away because she says he's just a friend, right? So let's get into the lyrics. So he says, I want to know your name and I want to know if you've got a man. If you've got a
man. I'm hearing the song in my head.
Yeah. He says, that's, you should really want to know that, I suppose, if you want to get to know someone for romantic reasons. Again, at 15, it kind of feels a bit much, but that's what he says. I want to know your name and I want to know if you've got a man. I want to know everything. I want to know your number and if I can come over, and I want to know what you like. I want to know, and this line...
He wants to know a lot, doesn't he?
He wants to know so he can do it all night. So the things she likes, he wants to know. Now, you see, at 15, there's a heavy innuendo there. Innocently, we'd say he wants to know so he can do it all night. It might be talking on the phone. You know how you do when you're young and you're in love.
What he's talking about.
But there's heavy innuendo, which for a 15-year-old... I'm challenged by that innuendo.
Very challenged
by that. And then he says, and this is, a thing that we found a lot actually in our upcoming of R&B, that we had very young men, very young
Mm.
black men being sexualized
Mm.
in a way that now I'm looking back, it makes me very uncomfortable. We saw it with
Mm.
Usher. Usher was how old? And he was
Mm.
7 o'clock on the dot in the drop top, like,
Yeah.
right? You had B2K. Let me see
I
that
wonder
body
how
going
old
bump,
Chris
bump, bump.
Brown was as well.
Also
B2K, yeah, but
very
Chris
young.
Brown,
Also very young. I believe he would have started as a teen, also quite
Mm.
young. Jason Derulo, we got all these people who start quite young. When I was really young, it was a Immature. If you remember Immature, and they became IMX, but I mean Immature
Yes,
were
with
babies.
yeah, that guy. I've
The
forgotten his name.
youngest, not Rad, I'm thinking of
He was involved with B2K.
he
Marcus
was in
Houston. Marcus
Marcus
Houston.
Houston.
Marcus
That's the
Houston.
one. He was in Sister, I was gonna say, but
Mm.
incredibly young. I mean, he literally we used to wear baggy clothes back then, but his was like on the floor. He was a baby. And then you had like Soul For Real, baby singing all these love songs. So again, when we think about stuff in the industry, all
Mm.
stuff that now listening to Mario makes me ick. It's a bit ick, makes me feel a bit
Mm.
uncomfortable. But he says this line in the song anyway. He says, I want to know your number, and if I can come over, and I want to know what you like. I want to know so I can do it all night, but you're telling me I'm just a friend. You're telling me I'm just a friend. Then he says, oh, baby, you. And if you know the original by Biz Markie, that would immediately come into your head. He says, oh, baby, you got what I need, but you say I'm just a friend. But you say I'm just a friend. Because I can be your fantasy. But you say I'm just a friend. But you say I'm just
A
a friend.
15-year-old should not be anyone's fantasy.
Right? He can be her
Very
fantasy.
questionable.
Very, very. And you have to think about this. I think about this from the perspective, not of him singing it, but the perspective of the producers who have said, this is a song for you. And this is what people are going to like. Very, very, makes you feel very uncomfortable. And then in the next verse, he says, I want to know you in and out. I want to know what you're all about. I want to know what makes you laugh. I want to know about your past. I want to know how you move. I want to know so I can move too. But you're telling me I'm just a friend. You're telling me I'm just a friend. So this whole thing of I want to know how you move, I want to know so I can move too. At 15, it's like, why are you so wedded to this idea of being this person's all in all? Why do you need to move how she moves? Why do you like if she says you're just a friend? Isn't that okay? But it's starting to build this massive notion, especially for young people in our heads, of this concept of unrequited love, the kind of passion and drama of, I want to be everything to you, but you just want me as a friend. When actually at that age, I mean, surely we should just be looking for friendships anyway, right? And then he says, please tell me one reason why you wouldn't want this kind of guy. Because I stay dipped, which I guess means he stays looking good. I stay dipped, I stay laced, and I know I'm fly. Is the beats?
Yes.
It's all coming back,
this
isn't
song
it?
is all in my head. I'm trying not to sing it.
Literally. Girl, stop playing games with me and let's get it on tonight.
It's a bit forceful.
And you're 15.
Very forceful. Actually, this song is actually toxic. Like, there's a few things I want to say about what you...
Let's stop playing games with me and let's get it on tonight. You've got nothing to lose. Then he says, so let me do what I do. Oh, baby, you got what I need, but you say, I'm just a friend. You say, I'm just a friend. So the first thing, obviously, that comes up very strongly in this song is this concept of unrequited love. He wants this young girl, and I have to put it like what it is, because if he's 15, this is a young girl that he's talking about.
Hopefully, it's a young girl.
Right?
I hope it is.
Hopefully, this is a young girl that he's talking about, right? So this is a young man who we'd like to think is talking to a young woman. Yeah, really putting, I mean, that begs to another conversation, but he's really seeming to put a lot of pressure on this young girl to be more than a friend, Now, obviously, more than a friend means to be in a romantic type of relationship. But I guess the first thing I want to talk about, there's two, because if we just look at this at face value, it is he wants to get with her. She's saying he's just a friend. So I want to talk about this thing that we have where we are, well, there's two sides to this. The pressure from the guy, but the friend zoning. So let's talk about the whole he's just a friend zoning, that whole thing. It's the way he is pressuring. It seems as if she doesn't even have a right to make a decision as to whether she feels it can be romantic. And oftentimes, I think you can know very quickly. I don't need to see how you move and what you do, and I can make the decision quite quickly that this is not going to be romantic. But some would say, especially for us as Black women, right? Some would say you're being too picky. You're not giving enough time. You've just friend zoned too early. So some thoughts on that. And because they're quite young, another thought as well that I'd like you to maybe just think around is, do we present things to young women that cause us maybe to not obtain our standards and feel like we have to give in to that type of pressure? Because he's dipped, he stays laced, he stays fly, he's got the money. What more should you, girl, what more are you looking for? He stays fly. You know what I'm saying? So, especially in our community, I think there is a lot of pressure. He looks the part. He does all the things. He's serenading you. He's taking you out. He's doing all the love bombing. When it comes to this whole point of you friend zoned, what are your thoughts on that?
I've got one main thought. But actually, before I say that, I want to mention that this, you know how you were saying, he's saying I stay
dipped,
I say dipped, I say laced, I'm fly. But then what he's really saying is, I'm great. Why don't you want me? Let me find out what you want so I can become it. And that just sounds a bit manipulative.
Very manipulative.
And it's going to backfire on him because now he's had to become something he's not for her to like him. And also it's putting pressure on her. So this song, actually, when I saw it with the video when I was younger, I thought, oh, it's a guy that's just pursuing a girl he really likes. Actually, this is by force you will be with me. By force you must like me. And so that I can make sure I'm presenting myself to you how you want me to, I'm going to change myself into what you want. I've got to find out all this information about you. So that's how we know. Oh, did he write it? I was about to say, that's how we know he didn't write this.
That's how we know he didn't write it. Because at 15,
he's too young.
He's too young.
Yeah.
He's far too young to write a song like this.
My view on the friend zone, and we've spoken about rejection and just accepting rejection. I just think accept it. I mean, I understand people say like the friend zone is like the worst place you can be and you've got to, do all these tactics to get out of the friend zone. But typically these tactics can be a bit manipulative to convince the woman that you are the one. And I say, you know what? Let's start glamorize rejection.
Yeah.
Let's start to see rejection as a good thing.
Through. We have to.
As an opportunity for something else, and just accept that we can't always get what we want.
Exactly.
She may have made a mistake. Maybe when she sees you with another girl, or he sees you with another man, depending on who we're talking to here. We're talking to men and women. Maybe then their eyes will open and they'll realize, actually, I do like this person. I also don't think that's very good either.
No.
Because why did it take you being with someone else for them to recognize your value and what you bring to the table? So just accept it. I think if we don't accept being friend zoned, we'll end up resorting to some of these tactics to push the person to not see us in that way. I mean, it doesn't hurt doing some things to get them to see you in a different light. Other than that, let's just let it go, okay?
Let it go. And I think that's the thing. Songs like this, they're not creating a healthy sense of worth. I think even for a young guy listening, because it's like, oh, she says you're just a friend, but you can make her change her mind. But what if you can't? Why would you continue? And why also are you obsessing over, like when you're coming up, people say, well, there's plenty more fish in the sea. But the reality is there are other people. Like, you can just let it go. say, okay, she says this, and move on with your life. And funny enough, maybe by you moving on and just focusing on your life, she
Exactly.
might
They'll come
actually
to you.
see you in your natural light and your natural habitat and be like, oh, actually, he's this. I've seen it. It's so much more healthy.
Exactly.
So this thing you said about he's trying to make himself into something that she wants. So it seems like, and I know we're always talking about social media because we just love it so much, but it does seem like there is a whole thing around goals. Everywhere we go, we have goals. There's a particular girl that you like. Maybe you like her because she's goals. Now you're trying to be with her and she's friend zoning you, but that doesn't make sense because you're goals. Everything is about goals. So I guess my question for
and you know
is,
when you say goals, I wonder if it's more fantasy than goals. And he talks about fantasy.
And he talks about fantasy. And so I wanted to touch on that because he's saying, I can be your fantasy. I can be it. And I think how much of what we're putting forwards now in society, and it might be in a romantic relationship, but to be fair, even in friendships, in anything, how much now are we focused on presenting ourselves in a particular way and becoming rather than just naturally being and just allowing nature to take its course? How much do you think that is now playing out in our pursuit of relationships, whether they be romantic or platonic?
I think people who have succumbed to the social media addiction are more likely to want to create fantasy feeling and fantasy looking things in their life as opposed to them being actually just great. And I think if we seek fantasy, we'll attract people who want to sell it to us. So we've got to not really seek fantasy. So if we're looking for a guy, you know, you want to find your husband or you want to find your wife, don't seek fantasy. Don't seek a fantasy ideal wife or a fantasy ideal husband. Have your standards and your ideals, but don't seek the fantasy because it's dangerous. You end up falling prey to someone that wants to sell it to you, and it's probably a pack of lies. Okay. And then one day reality hits you in your face and you're like, oh gosh, I believed the hype. I believed the fantasy and it wasn't the reality. And then the other thing that's interesting about what Mario is saying in this song is, you know, like we said, he wants to become whatever this woman wants. He believes he can entice her by saying, I can be your fantasy. I can be whatever you want. Okay. It's not good for Mario to do that. But again, the woman he's talking to is less likely to fall for that if she is not impressed by fantasy. I see a correlation between those who really spend a lot of time on social media, especially Instagram, and who love Instagram, and this fantasy curating life. There's definitely a direct correlation.
Definitely. And so and I think it's grown, but I almost feel like it starts with these types of songs that get popular and these types of lyrics, because this song is almost teaching young people to conform to be liked and to conform to be desired. If you liked this song, that's what's playing in your mind as a young man, right? Like, I can be what she needs. I can be what she needs. And so then when we grow up and now we're hearing the types of songs that we hear about this, you know, this is the prototype, this is the playbook, this is how we do it. You can kind of see that at graduation that it starts with these small things. So
you've actually made me think of this show that I love.
Yes,
like,
go.
I could. Okay, this is I'm confessing here, so don't judge
Confessions.
me. I could sit and watch the whole season in a day. Like, you'll have to pull me away. I don't know why, because I don't like dating shows like that, especially when they're long and drawn out. Like Love is Blind, I watched the first ever season of that in the US, and people keep asking me, have you seen the season? I've not watched it again since. But this show is called The Queen's Court.
Oh,
and I don't know if you've heard of it.
Not even heard of it, not seen it, nothing. No.
Yeah. It's American, and there's only been 2 seasons. I think I was going on about it to you last year when the first season dropped. It has 3 female B-listers. When you see this, they're celebrities, but they're not A-listers, but they're like celebrities. So the last one had the Braxton, is it Tamar
Tamar
Braxton,
Braxton, yeah,
and then
yeah.
someone else had been on Basketball Wives, and then Nivea the singer.
Oh,
This
okay, yeah,
this
yeah,
one had Lisa Ray McCoy, and it had Michelle, and then someone who I'd never really heard of called Delicious from a show,
yeah. Was it a show back in the day with Flavor
a reality
Flav?
show. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah. I
yeah.
know her. Yeah, yeah.
So basically the idea is that, they're celebrities, they've had a rough time with love, and their love life has maybe been out in the
Yeah,
public, and they're a bit older now, which I do like that aspect,
yeah.
that it is targeted at women. Most of them are in their 40s or
Yes, in their
50s, and they're looking to find love. Okay, and it's got a very sisterly vibe to it, so
yes, I
it's
like
not,
that.
yeah, it's not a mess. It's not got people
Yeah,
fighting and
yeah.
arguing like that. You see them building a bonds together
That's
and
nice.
supporting each other and finding someone, and they have to pick, I think, between like 12 men over what feels like a year, but it's
Oh,
really,
wow.
I think it's just probably a couple of weeks,
Yes,
but
yeah,
it
yeah.
feels like a year. When I see these men, Oma, you have to watch this. You have
I'm
to
gonna
watch the
watch it
show.
now. You said that.
When we say fantasy,
Hey.
these men, I love the show, right? So I'm saying this as someone who loves the show,
Yes.
but these men can only really get through if they are doing exactly what Mario's talking about, if they
Yeah.
are becoming the woman's fantasy. And for the whole 3 months or whatever, the three women are living in a house together. And then the final, I think, 6 move into the house with them in the
Oh,
end,
wow.
right?
Okay. Okay.
And genuine bonds seem to be formed, but
Yes.
it just all seems to be based on fantasy and things that aren't
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
because they've not yet experienced. The men can't really put a foot wrong, because then the women start saying, red flag, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Red
And then,
flag.
as much as it's nice to see a guy pursuing a woman, it is very one-sided a lot. Like, it's very rarely is the woman trying to find out
Yep.
about the man. It is the man saying, what do you like, what do you want, so that I can position myself and be
Mm.
what you want me to be. I think Tamar, for instance, in the first season had shown she likes material things. So the guy that she actually ended up getting married to, she
Oh,
actually married him.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then I think they were only
They
married for like a
broke
week
up.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. This guy knew this, and so was buying her expensive designer stuff while he was in the house, and she was loving it, and he was winning. So this is what I'm saying. Like, if we show a guy, or if a girl, if a girl shows a guy, or a guy shows a girl, that the fantasy will win me over, and this is what I want,
Yeah.
then that's what you're going to get. But it
100%.
just like I said, as much as I love the show, I look at it and I do just see this isn't real.
It's
The
not
show
real.
itself and how it's set up, it's not cultivating a real love.
And I think you've said that because you mentioned that Tamar was with the guy and then they actually ended up breaking up.
Yeah.
And funny enough, a lot of the times it does happen. And I suppose that's where people might say a show like Love is Blind, where you don't see the person and everyone just comes in like they are, produces, can produce something that's real. To be fair, in the show's defense, it has produced some lasting
Mm.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
In it, the ones that did genuinely, you could see from the beginning, were not there to find fame and whatever. It actually, funny enough, has. So there is a merit to that. So yeah, your point, about us chasing fantasy and being disappointed oftentimes, because you can only keep up a fantasy for so long. That's the point. So then it leads me to, and this is again to your point about this show, the dangers of a guy when you meet him, or vice versa, a female, seeming to be saying all the right things and doing all the right things. And every time you say, I like this, all of a sudden it's present. And you start to think, oh, wow, you're the, how can we avoid falling into that trap? Because we talk about this a lot, this love bombing. You've just met someone and they're saying everything right and they're doing everything right, and you're just like, wow, this is, you don't realize that they're taking the words you're saying and using that to their advantage. So how can we be more mindful and stable and not fall into this trap of being love bombed into dating people when, we might have had an initial reservation, but basically we get broken down? How do we avoid being broken down and remain
and not
neutral?
acquiesce, yeah. First of all, if someone wants to find out about you so that they can love you how you want to be loved, that's great, actually. In and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. If someone finds out that you love flowers and your favorite flower is the rose, and they get you lots of roses. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. I think for me, it's all about intention. Why are they doing this? What are they trying to achieve? There's a difference between doing this because you love the person, you want to serve them, and you like seeing them happy, and trying to get them
Yeah.
to be sort of like putty in your hands and to be obsessed with you so you can then control
Yeah.
them. There's two very different reasons. And how do you, I guess, know what the motive is behind each? I think you said something in one of our podcast episodes, one of our earlier ones, many a
Yeah.
time ago, that is very apt for this question.
And I can't remember
And
what it
you
was.
said-
So tell me about my own wisdom.
I'm going to tell you.
Tell me,
Okay.
girl.
I'm going to tell you. You said the behavior and the character should be consistent. So if they're here buying you flowers, loving on you, doing all this, but then you don't see that patterned anywhere else. They don't do it with they're not loving to their mum, they're not loving to their sister, they're not loving to the waiter, they're not loving to anyone. It's just they're targeting it on you. Some question marks and some red flag. I love how you're going.
That was wisdom. I'm like, yes, that makes sense.
No, but it's true. I think that's how we can discern the difference, isn't it? That's how we know whether this person is doing it to influence us or to get us to do something they want to do.
Yeah.
I scratch my back, I scratch yours, or whether it's a truly selfless act and they don't expect anything back. And that is another way that you can tell. Like, do they constantly reference all the stuff they've done for you? Do they mention it when you're arguing or when you're not doing what they want? Oh, but I did all this stuff for you, and I bought that for you, and I took you here. Look at all that I've done. Do they always mention it, or do they not? And I think that can also indicate why they're doing what they're doing.
Yes.
And I think within time, time kind of reveals all. Sometimes it takes a while.
It can take a really long time.
Yeah. Eventually it will reveal the motives.
Yeah. No, 100%. Wow, that was actually some good words. But it's true. It is true. You have to see consistency modeled. So, our little Mario, bless him, he's trying to conform himself for this little girl, and he's saying, I'll do what you want, I'll be what you want. But is he doing that for everybody else? Is he trying to be that? Because there are people who genuinely are people who want to make people happy, and there's nothing wrong with that, and just loving and affectionate.
Yeah.
But is he like that, like you say, with everyone else?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point to stand on. And then I want to talk about the fact that Mario seems to be really pushing this lady to change her mind. But she has made it very clear where she stands, right? You're just a friend. You're just a friend. She's made it quite clear. He wants to wear her down. But I want to talk about having boundaries, having your feelings on things, and how you can stand in those things even amidst pressure. And I think in our society nowadays, there can be a lot of pressure. And I think, these are very young people in this song. But when you get to certain ages, let's say you're our age, not going to give away our youthful ages, but you're our age, and maybe you're unmarried and you have a standard, you have the boundaries, and there might be a guy that you're like, oh, I just see him as a friend, but people are trying to wear you down, they're trying to break you down, they're trying to say, but look, he's the... How can you maintain your standards and what you want and not succumb to external pressures? And that could be for a guy or a girl, but I just used a female as an example. So any thoughts on that, Lou?
Just look out for the right red flags, because there are some times where someone who we've seen as just a friend who shows they're interested in us, and our friends say, but he's a great guy, you should think about it. Sometimes they're right, and sometimes actually there's things within us that have caused us to count them out.
Yes.
And we've got to be honest about that and really reflect. But it comes back to what's most important to us. We've got to know what that is, and make decisions based on that. What is ultimately important? The truth is that if one enters into a relationship where there's an unspoken agreement that I stay thin and beautiful and pretty and you make loads of money, it's just not going to be a good foundation, because you as a woman will get older. You will start getting wrinkles.
You will. You can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it.
You can't. I mean, some people can get loads of surgery, but unless you can afford that, and even still, I think even if you put someone who's, I don't know, 25 next to a 45 or 50-year-old that's had surgery, you can still tell the
You can
difference.
still tell the
know.
difference.
And then you've got that constant upkeep and maintenance. So you will, as a woman, you will eventually get older and your looks won't really be what's at the forefront.
And a guy.
And yeah, but if we're saying that the agreement is you
Yes,
stay
sorry,
pretty,
yes.
or I've come to you because of your body and because
Yeah.
you're pretty, and this is why I've stayed, and this is what I want to get out of the relationship. And the woman is saying, I've come to you because you can afford to upkeep my lifestyle. What if the guy goes through a difficult financial period? Or what if you get a divorce, he doesn't give you any of his money, finds a way to get out of it? And what if you don't stay looking pretty? We've got to build relationships, marriage on more than this. And so if we know then what's important to us, then we should be able to suss out quite quickly whether or not someone should be in the friend zone. Like it shouldn't be hard because we know what we need. Even though Mario's saying he's
got it.
But we know what we need, we know what we want, and we can suss out whether or not this is someone who should permanently be a friend. The other thing I'll say is friend zone gets a bad name. It's always bad.
It gets a bad rep. It's not always bad.
You can come out of the friend zone.
100%.
But you shouldn't do it by becoming what you think the woman or the man needs.
Yeah.
You've got to just be yourself. And if that makes the person realize, actually, this is a good thing, then more can happen. Another thing that I want to mention is some people are friend zoned, but they've not yet made their intentions for the person clear. They've not actually said, "Oh, I like you." They're just kind of, obviously Mario's making it very clear.
Mario ain't joking around, right? Mario's telling you what for.
Yeah. But I think unless you've told the person, which I know it can be scary, but unless you said, actually, I like you, I'd like to be more than just friends, you don't really know if you've been friend zoned, actually. I mean, naturally, someone will see you as a friend if you're not anything else.
Yeah.
So, one, I think we need to know what's most important to us so that we can clearly suss out whether or not someone should be a friend or not. Two, I think we've got to just start actually saying if we like someone and not just passively allowing ourselves to remain a friend. We've got to speak up. And three, if we know what's most important to us and that's noted, sometimes we can't always see it. So I do think it's okay for friends or family to say, oh, but you said that these traits were key. And, Bob or Belinda has those things. Can't you see? If all those things have happened, you have gone back to what's most important to you. The person has told you, I see you as more than a friend. I see you in a serious way. Your friends and family have said, look, Bob or Belinda has those things that are important to you. If you still want to keep the person as a friend, the last and final stage begins with an A. Do you know what that is, Oma?
I do not, but I know you're going to tell me. So break it down for
acceptance.
me now.
You've got to accept it. You've got to just accept it.
Right.
And move on.
And I love that you say acceptance because that was going to be my last point on this, was about acceptance. Because Mario here seems, despite best efforts, to be facing a lot of rejection. She's just saying, you're just a friend, you're just a friend. So if you find yourself in a position where you feel like you've done everything, and this can be in anything now, so this can be in a relationship, it can be in a job. Sometimes we feel like we've done everything in this job, we've worked all the hours, we've done everything. It can be in a friendship, it can be in any type of thing we're doing, and it still hasn't gone the way we want. How do we get to a place where we can accept the situation and move forward in a healthy manner? I love how that flowed there. How do we get to that point?
You know what? I've found that, just from what I've seen and observed, that a lot of men who face much rejection from women, it really affects them. They can become quite bitter in anger.
Yeah.
Quite bitter and angry. It can almost destroy them a bit. Like,
don't you think it's the way? Don't you think it's the way in which they've been rejected, though, more so than the rejection in itself?
I don't know if it's always bad. I'm sure they would have had bad rejections, but we all have bad rejections.
Yeah,
if we apply for a job, there's some jobs who reject us badly.
Yes.
They ghost us or whatever. So I think, even if rejection is done in a nice way, it doesn't always feel nice.
It doesn't always feel nice, no.
But I think men can really, especially if they faced it a lot, it can start to make them harbor resentment. And I have compassion for them. I would say that rejection of that kind is an invitation So once acceptance has been reached, I think what can help with that acceptance and whatnot is to see it as an invitation for learning.
Yes.
And I think there's often two main lessons that are happening. Either you're going for the wrong girl, you're actually going for the wrong type of girl.
Yes.
Maybe you're going for the girl that all your friends want, or the girl that looks nice, or the girl that you're meeting in environments that actually
a particular environment
isn't what you should be. So either you're going for the wrong girl, or there is some feedback you need to get. And you've just got to take it on. And rather than get angry or resentful, just be like, okay, that's helpful. Because every time you put yourself out there, you're getting data. Even if it's a rejection, you're learning. What is it, about the rejection? And I think it's an invitation to reflect, to learn about oneself a bit more. What could you be doing? Outward appearance does play a part.
It does.
Is it that I need to just not wear old smelly clothes, or just you know what I mean? Like, do I need to reassess my fashions?
Yes. Yeah.
Do I need to reassess just my presence?
Yes.
Because people can discern and pick up on things that aren't said.
Yes, 100%. Desperation.
They can pick up on desperation. They can pick up on low confidence. They can pick up on deep hidden anger or rage or aggression. They can pick up on if you're bitter about life. Like all these things can actually be unknowingly discerned, even though you might be saying the right things. You might think you look fine. People can pick up on these things. And so I think that it's an invitation for men who are getting rejected. And to be fair, this also works for women as well. I think either we're looking in the wrong place, we're trying to get the wrong woman for the wrong reason, or the wrong man for the wrong reasons, or it's an invitation to just take stock of a few things about ourselves.
Yeah, no, I love everything you said there. And I think ultimately that's really what I'm taking away from this. My beloved little Mario, and he's going to be a grown man now.
He's not little anymore.
He's not little anymore. I'm sure he's grown. I don't know if he's managed to settle down, if he's married, got children. I don't know. But I'd like to think that he was not ingesting these lyrics, and he did not take this rejection in a way that caused him to be bitter and enraged or conform and change himself. To my lovely young Mario, this is exactly what I'd say. You don't need to be what she needs. If she says you're just a friend, accept it, my young brother. Go away, do a bit of work, and go again. Any key takeaways from you, Lou?
Reassess what's most important in a potential prospective partner. I almost would say, don't go out dating, don't go out looking, don't join any dating site until you've written down the things that are most important 100%. To you in a partner. And it needs to go beyond the looks.
Yes.
It has to go beyond just the external things. They're important. The person needs to be attractive to you.
Yes.
But so that you can discern quite well whether this person has good intentions or not, you've got to write that down, and you've got to add that you want to see those traits consistently over time to know that this person genuinely is those things. So write down and be clear on what's most important to you, and obviously, to be fair, what are you going to offer as well? What can you offer the person?
You'd have to know your own values and have a strong identity within yourself. 100%.
Yeah. So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway is, once you've done that, if you know that that's what it is, you're clear on it, sometimes friends and family can help us see that in another person. So invite them in. And then third, if we're still friend zoned, accept it and see it as an invitation to either reconsider who we're looking for, the type of person we're looking for, and also who are we really, and is there feedback we can get to help us show our best selves? There's some inner work, some self-work that we've got to do. Are there things that people are picking up on that we're not fully aware of? And then lastly, Mario was too young to be singing this song. At 15, a baby.
He's too young.
He'd be in year 10. He'd be doing his GCSEs.
But I'd like to think that if all the tools that we're giving here, if you are at that age, if we've got any kiddie bups listening, that you take on board these tools. Don't bother about the girl in science class that ain't checking for you. You keep it moving. You keep developing yourself. You keep working on yourself, and you're gonna find who you are, and then also the person that you should be with. What you need.
Yes. So good. So good.
Right. So, we love you, Mario. I love this song. It fills me with so much nostalgia. Honestly, the nostalgia from this track is unbelievable. But we're gonna end it there. Good chat as always, and I guess I'll see you next time.
Bye, Omzi. Bye, everyone.
Bye, love. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Lyrically Speaking podcast. We're so grateful for all of you, our listeners. We don't want this episode to be the end of us connecting, so tell us what your key takeaways were. They're probably different to ours, so we'd love to hear them. You can tweet us with your takeaways or leave them as a comment on our social media post or our YouTube video for this episode. We are at Lyrically Speaking Podcast across all platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, except X, where you can find us as at Lyrically Pod. You can find Louise on Twitter and Instagram as at Carlo Coaching, that's Carlo with a K, and me, Oma, as at Oma.fam.